Jojo Siwa is no stranger to controversy, from growing up on reality TV and having very public relationships and breakups. However, since starting a relationship with Chris Hughes of Love Island, many people seem to believe she's become a straight tradwife due to her doing a song cover of Betty Davis Eyes, where she is seen wearing very traditional housewife attire and, of course, dating a man. This started a larger conversation about femininity and the LGBT community and biphobia. Hi! My name is Jaden, and I make commentary videos on culture, media, and kind of whatever's going on in the world that I feel like yapping about. And today we're yapping about the Jojo Siwa drama because, oh my gosh, I cannot go 2 seconds without seeing some kind of post about this, and I want to share my opinion. First off, where have I been for the last, I don't know, like month, 2 months? It's been a hot minute since I've uploaded a video. I am so sorry. I have a job. I'm an adult. I have a life. I have cats to feed. Yeah, see, Gojo right here. Ooh. Yeah, so I've been working crazy hours, long days. I just finished working 10-hour days for like 6 days in a row. It was a lot. I don't know how I'm still alive at this point, but I love my job, so it's okay. I also cut my finger open and I got 7 stitches, so that's been fun. Whatever, let's get on with the video. Quick recap, if you don't know who Jojo Siwa is, which if you don't, that is wild, because I feel like everyone knows who Jojo Siwa is with the amount of stuff that has happened and that is spoken about online. But if you're one of the few people that don't know, even though I assume most people do know, speed recap. Okay, Jojo Siwa. She grew up on the TV show Dance Moms, which I used to watch, and it's very controversial. Controversial. Why can I not say that word? Anyways, she grew up and she garnered like a very child-centric fan base and started working with Nickelodeon and producing songs like Boomerang, which were very like upbeat, fun, exciting, like tween girl music, you know? Rest in peace to the tween community, because I feel like there's no content or icons for tweens anymore. So it was very important that there was actually someone catering to children. But of course, she got older and no longer wanted to connect with the tween fan base because she was 18, 17, and still wearing big bows in her hair and singing Boomerang and, you know, catering to children. So she decided to do the most chaotic rebrand ever, which is when she was in her karma era. Ow, my thingy. I shouldn't have done that. Her karma era, where she decided to be a bad girl and do bad things, you know? She was going to be the next Miley Cyrus. She was inventing gay pop, right? Because she also came out as gay or lesbian, I guess, in 2021, which at the time was pretty important because, again, her fan base was very young and they finally had like a gay icon to look up to. But then with her rebrand of trying to be more adult-esque, she started like making questionable music and questionable music videos and having very public, very messy relationships online with various women. It was a whole thing, okay? You had to be there. I feel like this was such a vital part of like pop culture, you know? It's still going on. Anyways, she went into the Big Brother house earlier this year, right? And it was Big Brother celebrity. Some bratty guy named like Mickey something was all like, "Oh, you're not gonna be a lesbian by the time this show ends." And she was like, "You're being homophobic." And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, homophobia, homophobia." And she was like, "Oh no." And then Chris Hughes was like, "Hey, don't say that to her." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm no longer lesbian." And then she still had a partner at the time, and they got very, very close, her and Chris Hughes, you know? He was very supportive for her, and, you know, he was comforting her because Mickey guy was being stupid. Anyways, he got kicked off the Big Brother house, the Mickey guy, because he was being homophobic and garbage. Not a surprise, based off of, you know, his past. Anyway, so then Chris and JoJo had a very, very close platonic relationship. So close that they shared a litter box together. I know, Gojo, you don't even share the litter box with your siblings. Wild. Anyways, during this time, she again had a partner. And then when the show ended, her partner flew many hours to go see her. And then she broke up with her partner when they reunited. And then she started dating Chris Hughes. And then publicly announced that her and Chris Hughes were officially an item in June, which was Pride Month. And that's when all this started. That is the recap. I hope you enjoyed my rendition. How is Jojo Siwa dating a man started drama? Well, it's because JoJo was very, very open about being a lesbian, right? You know, she went on her whole gay pop rant. She was dyeing her hair rainbow. She was being a spokesperson for the LGBTQIA plus community. She was very supportive of it, despite being controversial. But you know, she was a public figure who was out, and that is still important, and we should still acknowledge that, like, you know, that's good. That's good to have, despite if someone is questionable or not as a person, you know? Anyways, it was really important to a lot of people to see her just being proud of like her sexuality and being open and honest about it. However, when she started cheating on everyone and then ended up cheating on Kath Abs with Chris Hughes, allegedly, it was not confirmed, but allegedly, right? Yeah. Horrible move to pull. Anyways, a lot of people got mad that she started dating a man and announcing it in June, which is Pride Month, in case you are unaware. It's illegal to be gay unless it's June, apparently. Crazy, right? Anyways, she announced that she was dating Chris Hughes, a man, when she was formerly identifying as lesbian. Now she's identifying as queer. And then people got mad by saying she came out as straight. Um, Yeah, just because you're in a heteromantic presenting relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean you're straight. She has said before, like 2021 era, that she identified as pansexual and her human was her human, no matter the gender. Then she started identifying as lesbian, narrowing it down just to women, and now she's identifying as queer because she's not quite sure where she fully aligns. But this whole thing about her coming out as straight, yeah, no, that's not how this works, okay? So, yeah, the bisexual and pansexual community always seem to get hated on no matter what. I personally am bi, and I know exactly what it's like for biphobia and panphobia. Is that a term? I don't know. I know biphobia is a term, but regardless, when you are attracted to more than one gender, essentially, people get mad and assume you have to choose a side because a lot of the times your sexuality is not fluid, right? You either only like girls, only like men, etc., right? But when you like multiple, it is a little bit more fluid in that sense, where it's like you might have a preference for one compared to the other. Using myself as an example, 99% I like women, okay? But there's a 1% where I do like men. I'm very particular with the types of men I am attracted to, you know, like I want like that nice like femboy, you know, like K-pop style, you know, just someone like really like soft. And then for women, I'm like, oh yeah, they're all beautiful. Like, yes, give me all of them. You know, that kind of situation. Which I feel like is kind of where JoJo aligns, considering most of her relationships have been with women. But again, she's also in the public eye and felt more pressured to be lesbian and only be with women. And now that she's with a man, she's getting all this backlash because people think that a man has changed her and turned her straight. That's really not how it works. But, you know, the internet is the internet and loves to start controversy wherever they can. And it doesn't help that JoJo posted this video of her doing a cover to Betty Davis Eyes, where she's wearing very traditional feminine clothing, very housewife esque, and you know, CNN. And with social media warp and everything, they're like, oh, that's her new look. JoJo Siwa is a tradwife. Like, she's fully just like turned. She is right wing. She is tradwife. She hates the gays now, and you know, she only likes men. She only wants to serve her man. It was a song cover, people. Can we just like take a step back? It was clearly a cover. She was clearly dressing to fit the part of the artist. Not everything has to. Ugh, I don't know. It's frustrating. Despite it clearly being her dressing up to fit the part of the song, internet is the internet, and people will instantly throw labels, and oh my gosh, Skytrain, can you just like chill? Because you're probably picking up on my microphone, and that is not nice. Okay, Skytrain's gone. Perks of living in the city. She was clearly dressing the part for the song to look like the artist and mimic it because she was doing a cover. And oftentimes, when you're doing a cover, you want to kind of emulate the vibe and the feel of the artist and the song. But you know, the internet does their thing, and then suddenly everyone was talking about how she's a tradwife now because she is dating a man and wore traditional clothing for a cover of a song. Therefore, she is a straight right wing straight gal. And because she posted a TikTok of her cleaning her house, don't forget, because only tradwives can clean and no one else in the world cleans their house. Okay, I mean, like I clean my apartment, but whatever, I guess. It's not like that's the type of videos people like, and that will get her engagement. And like she's an online troll and will play into the things people are saying to get more engagement, because good and bad engagement is still engagement. But whatever. And of course, people are mad that like even like her style has changed. You know, she's only in her 20s, right? Like she's literally dressing how I dressed when I was her age. People go through phases. People will go through many phases, and again, using myself as an example because relatability. I've been every phase under the sun. I went through my little girly girl phase, my little tomboy phase, my little emo phase, my J fashion phase, my rich girl phase, you know, before I figured out who I was. And that's not to say that maybe I would still change more over time because you're always evolving and you're allowed to experiment and try new things. The only difference is that she's in the public eye, so everyone is seeing these changes. When you think back on yourself or a family member or friends, they do not look the same way they did when they were 12. Most likely. Maybe some people figured out who they were by 12. If so, cool. But for the most part, people are experimenting and trying to figure out who they are over time. And the only difference is she's in the public eye, so everything she does is watched like a microscope, right? Like every little thing she's doing is gonna have some form of feedback, criticism, positive comments, negative comments. Everything happens, right? And like your early 20s, like right into adulthood, that's like the most like peak era of like figuring yourself out because you're no longer like a teenager, right? You're out of the teen zone. You're an adult. You're like a fresh adult. You know, you're most likely living on your own, which she is. You are exploring, you're discovering new people, new places, new everything, right? Like, it's literally like starting over because it's a new era of your life. You're figuring things out. And there's nothing wrong with that. I personally just think she's growing and trying to figure out who she is. And even in like the Big Brother house, you can see her talking to Chris Hughes. She was struggling to identify her identity as it is because she's young. Like, there's nothing wrong with trying to figure out who you are. Now, she does say and do very controversial things, and maybe she should get a PR manager or something because she has said some very out of pocket and kind of offensive things and stood up for very controversial figures. Colleen, sorry, there's something nice right there. Toxic gossip train. Yeah, you know, like that sense. Yeah, girl, don't, because Colleen's a predator, but whatever. You know, she is young, she's figuring things out. She grew up in the media and she's had all these influences from adults trying to tell her what to do, who to be, etc. So when she was in that house, I think she was honestly on her own for the first time without being forced to like put on an act or play a part. She could actually be authentic and real. And then that's kind of when you get like your quarter life crisis moment when you're like, oh, who am I? What am I doing with my life? Who do I want to be? What am I supposed to be doing? What am I identifying as? What's my sexuality? What's my personality? What are my interests? Who am I without external factors telling me who I am? Does that make sense? It's kind of like when you're a kid and you grow up and you have parents or siblings or relatives or anyone telling you what to do, who to be, etc. And then when you move out for the first time at like 18, 19, whatever, however old people are when they move out, if so, or even just be an adult and get independence for the first time, you start to evolve and change. You're figuring stuff out, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only difference is it's all public and everyone's hating on it, despite the fact they've probably all had the same experience. That doesn't go without excusing the fact that when she came out as queer, she said to F the L and replace it with a Q. That was pretty insensitive to the lesbian community, for sure, and it was pushing a false narrative to the wrong type of audience about how finding the right man will make you straight, or how being gay is just a phase, and being like into the opposite sex is just not real, and you're just confused. But like now that you found a man, you'll be normal. And like that is not a good message for anyone at all, because that's not how it works, okay? She just discovered that she does like more than one sex, and that's totally fine. That's totally valid. The way she went about saying it, though, is a problem, because that is putting a negative, like, innotation, if that's the right word. It's negatively talking about the lesbian community, which obviously is going to make them upset and mad. And then her saying that her sexuality and all sexuality is fluid is kind of inaccurate, because again, it's diminishing lesbians who strictly only like women. They don't have that fluidity where they'll like men. And if they did, that wouldn't make, they would be more so bisexual or pansexual, you know? So honestly, I think she was just really bad with her words there, and her doing the whole Tradwife video kind of played into that narrative of a man changing you, which I feel like is where most of the backlash kind of stemmed from, because she's doing these things to essentially troll people. She's a big troll online, kind of like Doja Cat, always just trolling and playing into the jokes, which can get taken the wrong way or seen by the wrong people, and then again pushed out and making a totally false narrative. Yeah, I do not think she is a tradwife, and she is still part of the LGBTQIA plus community, despite the fact she's dating a man. And I just hate the whole biphobia of it all, honestly, because bisexuals and pansexuals are in that awkward area of the community where if you are dating someone of the opposite sex, they'll accept you. And if you're in a hetero presenting relationship, then you're seen as straight. That's not how it works. And we really need to stop thinking that, because we can like who we like. And if someone is identifying as part of the community, they are part of the community. If they're unsure about where they align on the spectrum, that is totally fine. People are allowed to explore, they're allowed to figure themselves out. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem, though, is when you are saying and doing controversial things and kind of joking around and diminishing other people's experiences, feelings, and thoughts, like saying to get rid of the L. That was not cool, and she should not have said that, but I'll give her benefit of the doubt because she's still young and figuring things out. She is still a kid. She grew up in the public eye. Everything she says and does will be dissected and investigated. She will troll online because that brings the engagement. And yeah, she is a controversial person for sure. Not the best role model for people, but she is who she is. And I don't think we should be hating on someone solely just because they're trying to figure themselves out. I don't think that's cool at all. But yeah, don't bring biphobia into this though, please. She's allowed to explore. Do I like her as a person? Not really. I don't know her personally, but based off of everything she's done with like XOMG Pop, the cheating allegations, worshiping Abby Lee Miller and Colleen Ballinger, her and I would not be good friends, to say the least. But I think she's a kid, and we should let her figure out who she is and explore. And let's stop bringing biphobia and right wing allegations into everything. And it was a cover of a song. So, yeah, she's not a tradwife. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my video. I'm sorry I disappeared for a long period of time. I'll see you in my next video whenever that is. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Bye!